Hi everybody. It's Friday. I am working from home today with my kitty cat Ivy. So we are here to talk to you guys. It's a little bit of a head start on the week actually. I'm talking to you about your work that's not going to be due until Wednesday at 11:59. But I wanted just to go ahead and establish a routine of getting this posted a little bit earlier so that you can use the weekend to do the work if you need to. I want to talk a little bit about two things. I want to talk about the film, obviously. So you might wait until you've watched the film before you watch this video, because I'm gonna maybe give some spoilers. But I also just want to talk about the format of our class and how things are going. So we're about a quarter of the way through the semester at this point, which is kind of crazy to think like we're making progress, getting through. But I just want to remind you sort of what the intention of our class is. So we've spent a lot of time in person talking about living in the South, which is the title of the class. But you know, there were lots of different topics that you could have taken for this class. So really the whole point of the class isn't that you become an expert on the South. That's not the goal. What is the goal is that you become an expert in accomplishing college level work in two ways, with writing and with communicating. And our syllabus says oral communication. Now, we're not in person very often in this class. A lot of us, I haven't even met some of you in person. So the oral communication part is a little bit different, but the way that I'm thinking about your progress in the class and your success is that when you leave here, you not only have learned a little bit about the South, but that you have had an experience where you have been challenged in a college setting. So I know all of you guys, this is your first semester in college. You guys are coming straight out of high school. Sorry, my kitty likes to play sometimes. She's a little bit mean. But y'all are coming out of high school and this is your first experience in college. So with that being said, I want to empower you to do well in this class and in all of your college classes. So if I was going to give you the cheat codes to college, like if I was going to tell you what does it take to be successful in college, I would tell you one very specific thing. It's that in college, your teachers expect you at bare minimum to read, view, listen to the assignments that they give you. So if you are asked to read a book in a class, that's the bare minimum. I gotta put my kitty down. She wants to play too much. Say bye, Ivy. The bare minimum is that you're gonna read the book that is assigned to you. That's a given. And no one is impressed that you do it. So just doing the assignment is not enough anymore. We are now, as your college professors, asking you to go beyond just doing the rote memorization of learning and to criticize and critically think about the things that you're being exposed to. Imagine if you were in like an art appreciation class, which some of you might take that class eventually, but it's not enough to just look at a piece of art. Like your teacher would not be okay with that. What they would want you to do is say, what do you think the artist is trying to convey? When was this artist painting? How is that relevant to the way that they portrayed the image? You know, they would want you to unpack the image, not just look at it. And that's kind of what is happening here. So when you, or if you've watched Sweet Home Alabama, that's great, but that's the bare minimum of my expectation is that you watch the film. That is not uncommon. That's going to happen in all your classes, that the bare minimum is that you read. Whew, that's crazy, right? Because that took 2 hours of your time to watch that film. But here's the thing. What we value in college that might be different from your high school, depending on where you went to high school, but is that you are able to think about why something you're reading or watching or listening to matters. What is it saying about a certain population of people? What is it saying about a philosophical concept? And it is like really hard to do this. This is not just for like art majors. This is for any major you choose. It's not going to be enough if you're an early childhood education major that you watch somebody else teach or that you read a book about teaching. You have to apply knowledge in college. Nursing is the same. You can watch people give CPR all day long. You can read every book that exists on CPR, but you have to contribute to the process of giving CPR to be considered an expert. So it's much more active and much less passive than what you might be used to. So when you attend a class, it's not enough that you are holding the chair to the floor with your body. That's presence. I'll count you as present, but that's not actively engaged with the material or with the course itself. I know that that's like maybe a big eye roll to you. Maybe you don't really care about doing well in college, so you're just like, whatever, I'm just going to hold the chair to the floor and do whatever I want. That's fine, and C's do get degrees. But if you're wanting to really immerse yourself in the college experience, the academic part of it, and to see what all you can learn and see the ways you can grow and challenge yourself, then it takes more than just your reading and your presence. It takes your thoughtfulness. It takes your attention to detail. It takes your willingness to spend time on assignments. So everyone's been doing, this is not like a wake-up call, ever change the way you're interacting with the class. You guys are doing great so far, and we're having great discussions, and we're really digging into some hard ideas and topics. But I challenge you to go a little further with your time and your energy and your effort in these class meetings that we're having and in the discussion boards that you're contributing to. So this week, you had an assignment, you have a film to watch. Even though it's almost 2 hours long, it is like very easy to understand. It's not like I'm asking you to watch a documentary that's boring. Like, it may be boring to you because you don't like this kind of movie, but this is something that you would watch on a date if you were going out for Valentine's Day and it was in theaters. Like, it's not super intellectual, so that's good. But and also know, like, I don't think that this film is particularly brilliant. I don't think it's not my favorite movie. But what I like about it and why I teach it in this class is because it's an interesting counter to S-Town. S-Town or Shit-Town and Sweet Home Alabama. S-Town is in Alabama. Sweet Home Alabama is obviously in Alabama. Two competing perspectives, ideologies, philosophies about the South. Now, in the character Melanie in Sweet Home Alabama does leave the South for a reason. I'm interested in your perspective on that. Why does she end up leaving the South, and why does she end up coming back? So I think the film, I'll just spoiler, I think the film portrays the South very positively. Like, very positively. Yes, some of the characters might be kind of backwards in some way, but they're funny and they're good people. It's like Melanie's fault, kind of, for not seeing that in, oh gosh, my animals are like fighting, my dog and my cat. Better say a prayer that the cat survives because the dog sometimes gets at her. Anyway, the S-Town film or S-Town podcast, I don't think it really tries to redeem the South very much. It's a pretty bleak perspective of those people. We talked about a certain scene in class where John B. complains about how many churches are in the town. The cat's in here, so she's fine. Poor kitty. She just got attacked. John B. talks about how many churches are in his town, but there are no colleges, or there's only 2 or something. So he's very concerned about the anti-intellectualism of his environment, and concerned about, like, for him, what he sees as too much focus on religion and not enough about education. That's his perspective. So he has this bleak perspective. Whereas in Sweet Home Alabama, our main character, she doesn't really grapple with religion. She doesn't grapple with racism in the South. She only really is embarrassed about the poverty of her parents. Like, they live in that not so nice house. She changes her last name to pretend like she's from the big estate, the big plantation. She doesn't feel embarrassed that plantation was the home of slaves. That does not mention or cross her mind. Instead, that's what's seen as prestigious. So instead of criticizing the cultural history of that estate, she aspires to be part of the elite, which isn't necessarily the best way to represent a plantation. which it was a site of horror and crime against Black people. The film doesn't touch on that. Instead, it says Melanie has to learn essentially that her mobile home is just as good as a plantation. The only negative part of the South that is revealed, or that is really, from my point of view, that's really focused on, is that sort of lower class, like not having a lot of money. At one point, her boyfriend, or her husband, Jake, he says, just because I talk slow don't mean I'm stupid. And so it really, and he ends up having this like empire where he's selling glass. Like he becomes a businessman in the South. So he's kind of a hybrid in some ways. He's a Southern man, but he goes for this like business-oriented mindset to provide for himself and to impress Melanie too. But I had one more quote written down. Where did I write it? So this is another counter. So when Melanie comes back home, she says, people need a passport to come down here. But it's not because the South there's no real reason. What she sees as different is just people saying funny things. Her father does have this allegiance to the Confederacy, and he does those, those Civil War reenactments, and they actually have like Confederate flag throw pillows on their porch, or on their living room. I don't know if y'all saw that. I don't know what y'all think about the Confederate flag anyway, but this film doesn't criticize that at all. They're just like, it's part of this family, and she has to remember how great it is to be part of this family. And it's not even despite those things. Those things aren't criticized by the film at all. So I, again, don't necessarily love the way that the film doesn't criticize the South. Oh, look at this kitty. She's creeping into the shot. I guess I'm going to leave her because I hate to move her. Anyway, the film doesn't really criticize some of the things that we have already done in class and the things that S-Town does. But, sometimes it is nice to see that counter, see that positive perspective, see her mom making fried pickles and that being okay. So that's why I chose it, though, because it's the really, like, Disney princess version of living in the South, whereas the S-Town is like the trauma, the horror, all the bad things that can happen. The next thing that we're looking forward to, the episode from Queer Eye, I think is balanced. It talks about a family that really loves to live in the South, and then we hear from some people who had a hard time with it. So look forward to seeing a kind of a middle perspective, but I'm really trying to make a contrast between the two with S-Town and Sweet Home Alabama. And you could critique either one. You could say S-Town is too negative, or Sweet Home Alabama is too positive. You could go, just whatever. So that's kind of like the method behind the madness for me, why I picked these things. Now, what you're going to see on this discussion board, right below where I've posted this video, is that I am asking you to answer some discussion questions. I have about 4 or 5 questions there written out that I want you to take the time to answer. And remember, this is not just proving that you watched the film, because remember, like I said, I'm not impressed by that. Your teachers aren't impressed by you doing what is asked. What we are looking for you to show us is your thoughtfulness about those things and your willingness to take the time to care about what we are reading together. So I hope you guys have a good weekend. I'm going to get this posted in the next little bit so you can have plenty of time to work on the assignment. Check in with me if you're struggling in this class, or if you're struggling in any of your classes. I love talking about college. I'm still in school. This is my 9th year in school on this PhD. I am the school nerd, officially. I don't have glasses, but I may as well. I really love school. So if you're struggling with something, I'm a good person to talk to, because I've struggled plenty, and I'm happy to kind of share my experience and see if I can help you with yours. So I'm here for you. Let me know if you need anything as this week goes on, and we will touch base again soon.